Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Cathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
The Season 2 partner of The Change is Olivio Wellness Skincare, hydrating natural skincare for the over 40s.
Keep listening to the end of this episode for a discount code for your next order of Olivio Wellness products. Hey, Cathy.
Hey, Laura, we're back. This is part 2 of our exclusive chat with Georgia van Cuylenburg.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to part 1, please do that first. There's so much incredible information and chat within that. But once again, before we jump in, we just want to add a note here on our content. This episode contains discussions of child sexual abuse, eating disorders, and complex PTSD. We totally understand if this episode is not for you. Links to support services are in the show notes. We'll kick this off for part 2. We're going to talk about the future and what's next for you. We've said in previous episode, talked about your role as an actor, a podcaster, a philanthropist. You know, you're an activist. You work in a number of different, you started your own charities in the US and in Africa. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, but what is also important to you just in your life personally and professionally.
At the moment, I'm really focused on, I did a Hugh, is the best way to say it. I went out and tried to fix everything. It didn't feel okay to just try and fix myself and spend all my time going to therapy and doing that. I needed to be outward thinking. And I have a very, very, very deep love of, the way I always describe it is, I spend a lot of time using my brain to serve. I like using my hand and heart to serve sometimes because it takes the brain away. You can rest and just be with human beings. So I spent a lot of time in Africa and India doing that. But invariably, I would put my brain into it because I would see stuff and be like, no, that we need to do something. So I have been able to hand over, which is the right thing to do. I was asked to come and sort of problematize and think through some stuff in Ethiopia around women's mental health. It's very stigmatized. It is stigmatized to the point where women are told they have a curse and they're kicked out of the community. And if we want to help mothers, young mothers who are living in extreme poverty to start a business and they have severe mental ill health, how on earth? So I sort of built a program, Women's Community Leadership Program, that looks at secretly addressing the mental health of these women to help empower them without saying it, because you can't. But how do you address their loneliness? The men, their partners often leave them because they're seen as a curse in the community. And so they're by themselves. So I've handed that back to Yosef, who asked me to start that company, and he runs it. And I just get the updates with the taxes once in a while. I've also sort of become a lot more hands-off with Hearts for Community Action, which I started in Uganda, Ginger, through a Dear Sir, Madam email that came. And I was like, this must be some prince that wants money for his, whatever.
Yeah.
And Ashraf asked to partner with my American nonprofit. And he was a real person. And I ended up partnering. We did a pen pal program with the kids there and here and across the countries, in different countries, Lebanon as well, and India. And he now is a little bit more involved in running the day-to-day. We do a lot of education and immediate emergency response. Our kiddos there are the kind of kids that don't have shoes, and so they have jiggers, and we just try and, it's been a good lesson for me to not try and always problematize and create big solutions, but just deal with, if these kids don't get shoes, they're going to get sick. A lot of our kids have HIV, and trying to educate them on safety and what that means for them, and don't get on a bike with a man that says he wants to give you a ride because he can't have sex with anyone else, so he's going to do it with you because of it. Lessons that I am so deeply grateful that I got to learn, that this is a daily struggle for, coming from the world, it changes. I can't wake up in the morning and not think how bloody brilliant that I woke up in this world. And so a big part of that is, for me, I feel like growing up in Bowen, Australia, I was born already at a plus to so many people for the rest of, like, no matter what, no matter trauma, whatever, I've already won. And therefore, if I know anything, can do anything, think anything that could be helpful, I better do it. I've worked a lot in India doing stuff which I've learned the hard way. I ended up in the news there doing things that maybe was seen as maybe because women aren't meant to do certain things. And
okay.
I did a lot of last rites, which is where you hold the bodies and burn the bodies of folks that have passed. And we did it with untouchables because no one will do it. And that did give me PTSD, along with my work in Lebanon with Syrian refugees. I definitely have had to work through some complex PTSD because of seeing and holding and loving certain things that, or people, and what the situations are. So did a lot of that. And I've really stepped back, to your question. I've stepped back from a lot of this because as I've healed more and as I've experienced more, I've done something which I never thought I would do, which is to accept that I can only do so much in the world in which I live, and to go into another place and give them my insight is nice, but I could have a lot more impact in the world within which I reside and the small world that I know, doing the little that you can do with what you've been given, kind of thing. Not that I ever want to, to your point, Cathy, I don't want to play small, but I actually think we can have more impact sometimes at home, and there's so much to be done. Also, I've gone on my journey of ready to use my trauma to help. I started Arts Bridging the Gap 10 years ago when I was still very much in it. And the whole concept of Arts Bridging the Gap is using arts education to help heal trauma in kids in under-resourced communities. We've now been around for 10 years, and it's a big organization here, and thank you. And I was a volunteer, and I've handed it over to the amazing Kyle, who runs it and is paid. And I just get to do the fun things like garden yesterday with the special ed kids at LA High School. And so I've sort of handed all these things that I created in my effort to solve all the problems of the world over, because my goal and my dream that I keep avoiding was to be in entertainment and be a voice for kids. And when it wasn't working, I tried to do everything else. And admittedly, along that journey, I lost my hair, and that was a bit of a shock. And I was a hair model before that, and I put so much identity. So for a long time, that became something I was really invested in. And I did a lot of traveling and talking to kids and being this face of alopecia. But as you two can see, I have a lot of hair now. And it's fine, and I don't wear wigs anymore. And I've kind of gone, it's not my job. I can turn up to the camps and say, well, as a member of the patchy pack, as we call each other, people that have patches and holes, I'm missing hair all the way along my back of my hair. It's still there. But I don't think that's kind. I actually think it's not fair to turn up and say, oh, it's really tough. Because yes, it is tough. I live every day wondering if my hair's going to fall out today. Every time I brush my hair, I check for hairs. Every time I see a hair down here, I wonder, is today the day my hair will fall out again? But it isn't. And so I like empowering younger alopecians to do that. So I really have stepped back and said to myself, of course I need to support myself, and of course I need to find ways to, be safe. But I've been able to do a lot of big voiceovers and been able to be in a few different fun things. And I had a kids' TV show for a second for 2 to 5 year olds. It's been now 14 years ago, something like that. And I started my podcast 2 years ago to talk to kids, to have their voices heard and for them to tell stories. No surprise there, right? But my goal, and what I, amongst writing a pilot right now with another friend and amongst trying to write this book, the thing that I should be doing, Cathy, the thing I should actually put all my energy into and stop myself by doing everything else and trying to help everybody. And I didn't mention homelessness. That's another big area that I take a lot of time and energy to get into, is I want a talk show for kids between the age of 8 and 12. I want to have a live action, not an animated show that I hate using this term because it makes it sound very cliched, but is an Oprah for kids. That is a place where Oprah made it okay for housewives to say life's tough or this is tricky, and I really believe that kids need a place to be messy in and to laugh and get back to a point where it was okay to play a silly prank and a joke, like a sort of a mixture of that like Double Dare show that we all used to have as a kid, but also they sit around a couch and I say, what's going on? How are you feeling? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, are we like a 5 to model a group of kids that are being real and honest. And we did a pilot on Zoom during the pandemic, and I should be spending every second of my day pushing that. And yet I still find myself putting my fingers into everybody else's pie.
Probably because those things feel safe, because those things, you can do them, so they feel safe. And I don't know, again, not wanting to put words in your mouth, but for me, I focus on the things that are safe, that I know I can do really well.
Yeah.
The thing that I want to do, that I'm terrified of, is what if I fail? Like, as much as everyone says, oh, we're here to catch you and go and do it, it's like, but what if you're not there to catch me? So I'm going to challenge you on that. And I reckon that the reason you're doing all of those things is because that little voice in your head that I have, that many people have, it's like, I got to do the safe. I'm not going to do the big, or I'm not going to do the scary. Because I've been scared. I've had the scared. I know what the scared feels like, but that's a different scared. And this is not going to result in the same scared.
You're completely on point, and thank you for that challenge. I think especially being a single woman here in LA, like I need to take care of myself. I do need to be smart. I don't want to I see a lot of fellow creatives who live hand to mouth. That doesn't work for me. I know that works so well for a lot of creatives. They're like, oh, I don't know if I can pay my rent today. And they seem to be fine with that. And I'm like, nope. I have a huge value around financial safety, and it scares the bejesus out of me if it gets dangerous, just because of different things of growing up in a certain way where money was a worry. Like my dad worried about that, even though we were so fortunate and everything, but we watched him worry, and that built in me a worry. And so I have to balance that. I was so lucky in my earlier career when you could make some significant money off entertainment. You can't anymore. There's a huge gap. And that was part of the strikes and everything last year, for people to really learn that, like, to be a working actor is not to make a living. Two different conversations. To be a well-known working actor is a great living. To constantly work as an actor, you will not make a living here anymore. So I've actually found it to be extremely relieving that I can have those conversations with friends. We can remove that sense of value. I think as a creative, you tend to attribute value to your success that you shouldn't, because there's so many alternative facts and things and details and players within that, that you be the most talented, fantastic human being with the best idea. And that doesn't make you less a person if it doesn't get made, but we tell ourselves that it does. And so I'm really enjoying unwinding. I'm not there yet, obviously, otherwise I'd be selling a kids show right now, but unwinding some of that to go, oh, you're right. I'm a good person because I'm a good person, not because I'm wealthy from selling a TV show. Believe me, I know a few of those people. They are very, very great people.
Yeah, exactly right. Just because you can sell a TV show doesn't make you a good person, right?
No.
So,
There's so many levels to that, isn't there? And so much connection and who you know and who you've grown up with. And it's just, it's not all about, the type of person you are, or even your idea. And I think I relate as a creative person so much to what you've said, because, as a writer in Australia and probably all over the world, it's impossible to make a living off just being a kind of jobbing writer unless you've got a name, or you are someone that was, working in journalism 25 years ago. You can command big dollars. There's no money left in creative industries. It's just so, I guess it's just spread so thinly because of the world of the internet, and there's so many people trying. It's very difficult. So totally relate.
Which is really interesting, because I feel like, back to what I was saying, I think in the last episode, around the world of being, we're getting to a more grey area, but we're craving the black and white. I actually feel like creative is actually going to become where we're going to get to those answers through creative, because as scary as AI and all of those things, but AI can't create creative. Like it can
original thought.
Yeah, I've heard through work, people were doing a bit of a presentation about, they went to an education AI session and everything, and they're saying that AI can write an episode of Paw Patrol, but it cannot write an episode of Bluey, because there's so much nuance and creative in Bluey, whereas Paw Patrol or those types of shows are very formulaic. This happens, then this happens, then this happens. Whereas Bluey, there's nuance and creative, and that's where we will all come to our fore. Is there anything else that's left? I mean, I'm very jealous that you were in Star Wars. My family is an incredibly huge Star Wars fanatical family, so I'll email you about that.
Yeah, I was going to jump in on the digital thing, because it is, the digital world has made it, like when you look at it all, whether it's writing, whether it's AI, whether it's digital is the thing, like streaming dollars. That's why there's no money in acting anymore, because there's no ad revenue on cable, like actual television. There's no music money because you stream the music now, you don't sell the records. So all of this digital change. And when I think about, like, I've had this super weird life. That means that I am a singer and I've been in music, and that I am an actor, I've been in that world. But I've also seen what people on a day-to-day are going through that aren't in this world. And I've had these incredible experiences that I sometimes even have to remind myself that I've had with people that are so far away from this fun, glitzy world of creative, because they don't have the luxury to be creative. They don't have a world in which having a creative thought is safe. They just need to survive. And I think as we talk about what is digital doing, what is this, we can't stop digital. We can't stop AI. We can't stop technology. But we have these incredible creatives out there that will be needed. For example, with Arts Bridging the Gap, I built this world in which we do creative workshops that are empathy building, and that they are restorative justice building through expression, creativity, games, improv, art. We do murals in like major intersections across LA that are designed by children and police officers and city leaders and people experiencing homelessness together. That can't be done with AI, because an AI machine is not going to go by and be, that's my handprint, that I did that. And that helps change the pro-social behavior in a community. Just like you can't create a piece of content that changes the way people see parenting, like Bluey, by a machine. So I'm excited to live in a very gray area for myself that feels scary, where I know that I experienced what I experienced because of that man for a reason. I lost my hair for a reason. I went through anorexia to understand what it's like to not want to be in the body. Like, I went to Africa, I went to India to learn something. We're not a religious family, but I really believe everything in life happens for a reason. My mum disagrees with me every time we talk about this. And by the way, maybe it didn't predetermine, but we can create a reason.
Yep.
And me, and when we talk about what next, through my kids' show, through the podcast, through staying in the messy and in the gray, and being able to talk to beautiful women like yourselves, discovering how all the things that we've learned that are hard, that you can't make a living as a writer and you want to. And like, we go through these journeys because the world is changing so fast. And if we don't have creatives to problematize that, to come up with unique solutions, and to say, we need to heal trauma, and that cannot be done through AI, and we bring our trauma to our work. And if we do not say, I got this, what have you got? And doesn't that make you a highly valuable, impressionable, creative person to bring something to this game? We need everyone in there doing that. And the accountants are going to need us it's too complex anymore to solve, like the systems thinking, the way that we say, well, if this happens and that affects that and that affects that, that's a creative mind. And I am so excited and terrified and confused and don't really know the answer as to how brains like ours who are willing to play in the gray will be the ones that hold everyone else's hand in a way to say, it's this way or no way anymore.
Yep.
And welcome.
Yep. Welcome to our world. Welcome to the grey.
The grey, creative, nuanced world.
For a while. And I think it's also to your point of being a woman. Like women have been living in a world in which it's uncomfortable to be them. One of the best things happened a couple of weeks ago. This man that was running for city council here in LA, dear friend of mine, he was a white man trying to run for city council in LA right now, which is almost impossible. He's gay. And I was like, well, you got that going on, but otherwise everybody's wishing against you. And he did really well, but he didn't make it. And I saw him at an event the night that he conceded. And he was so soft and warm with me. He's like, I just, and I was like, how did you come out, Ethan? That's so amazing that you're here. And he said, I walked in and I wanted to cry and I saw Jeff and it made me cry. And he goes, is this what it's like to have your period? And I was like, welcome to being a woman. Yeah. Events where we want to cry and we'd rather be women. We do it fucking anyway. Welcome to being a woman. And I think that that's why I'm excited that feminine-minded folks are really going to win out in the next few generations.
Yes, feminine attributes, like we can all benefit and by leaning into those feelings and emotions. And I think that as a mum of boys, I'm always talking about that, you know, how it's good to let it out. Lean in. Yeah. We always ask every guest this question, regardless of age, because the podcast is called The Change. We wondered what your feelings were about the change, which is often known as, well, perimenopause or the menopause. Tell us, what's your personal experience? How do you feel about it all?
Oh, it totally ties into everything. It's that same messiness, right? As I sit here sweating a little, I used to be that freezing cold sleeper and now I'm the warm sleeper. I'm just like, what? Talk about a change. This is weird. But for me, it's very uncomfortable. I mean, it's not comfortable for anyone. Everyone's like, woohoo, menopause, let's do this. But I am someone that believed they could fix everything. Part of my anorexic journey, part of my, like, if I just put this input, I'll get this output. And my journey through hormones, because I didn't have my period for a really long time. Get on the pill to manage PMDD, which I got diagnosed with last year, which is I always get this wrong, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is basically like taking PMS and setting it on fire. And I didn't understand that. I'd never had it because my hormones were so minimalized and I just was so sad and so down. And this fantastic physician's assistant got me on a pill, which I resisted because I had all the stories of it's going to make me fat. And that's not something that Georgia likes to do to her body by choice. But it just turned it off instantly. And it was very hard for me to accept that I had something that medicine had to fix. And a feminine medicine, like a pill, the answer, I was like, no, I should be able to eat this thing or do this thing. And it should, I'm not a victim. I think menopause is this world in which we're all victims.
It's a guarantee for anyone.
Happens to us. Yeah.
For anyone who has had a period in their life, it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, my best girlfriend who I was like sort of in a weird situation. I'm straight, but we weren't sure for a second there with her because I loved her so much. She doesn't have ovaries anymore. And uterus. It all got taken out when she was in Afghanistan seeing battle. And she went through it and she doesn't even have the bit. So that's my biggest lesson to people, that I think, to your point, like it's helping me be more humble with women, because I wasn't very good at being friends with women in my early, because I had all brothers and male cousins, and I have a very masculine approach to get it done. I wasn't good at I just sort of fought against my feminine side for a long time, because I saw it as, if I give in to these attributes, I'm soft, totally contradictory to everything I've said. And that's, I think, where it comes from me. Like, I'm so passionate about everybody feeling their feelings because I know what it's like to not want to. And so this is a gift that I hate. Like, it's, please take this gift back to the store. I didn't ask for it. But it is, like I said to you this past week, so I have endometriosis, yay. And
Yay.
that's been another thing that I've had to learn. I went through surgery in March and it's been a lot better. But like ending up on your bathroom floor in level 10 agony, pooping and bleeding at the same time, being like, this is not cute. And going, this is not me. I swear, I didn't do this. I didn't ask for this. I didn't make a mistake. And not being able to eat for like 3 days because it would hurt so much having food. Like it really makes you go, I am not in control. And it's really helped me love women a million times more, just to have this kind of like, you just never know what a woman is going through. And the fact that men are pretty quick to judge that, are pretty quick to go, how bad could it be?
No.
Yeah, like when they're like, how bad could it be? But to that point, though, a couple of men recently, my partner last year, we didn't make it, but he was lovely in many ways. And he would say, it sucks to be a woman. I am so sorry that you have to go through this. I hate that women. And I was like, hello. Like, finally a man. Yeah, I know I'm not used to this energy. So when I cross men now that are like, I have sisters, or my ex-wife went through it. I'm so sorry. I'm like, we're getting there. I'm not in it yet. Apparently I'm not perimenopause. Like I thought I was, and I thought all of that stuff, and I thought I was getting there. And if I haven't got there yet, and this is what it's like, I'm so sorry. Like I just, per my point of like everything happens for a reason, maybe we all need this to turn the world around and bring us together. But I mean, whoever made this plan could have come up with a better way for it to happen, please.
Yeah.
I do think the menopausal or perimenopausal women are having a bit of a moment, and that might be the thing. Who knows?
Yeah,
So,
we can manifest our rage and heat or something.
We'll just sweat all over them.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful way to end, really, that, it's a gift, and it's a gift that we don't really want. But given that we've received this gift, what are we going to do with it? And how do we, turn it around? And, like we have spoken to some women who have said they kind of didn't realize until after that they were going through it. So it is very, very unique.
I also have a girlfriend who I swim with, and per this, like, I'm making girlfriends. It's so fun. But my friend at the pool, she talks about menopause very lovingly, and she's so funny. She said, before menopause, I was bleeding this or bleeding that. She said, now I can wear white pants. And I just thought that was like, she's the best thing for her is getting to wear white again.
She can be like that girl in the Tampax ad when we were all growing up who was wearing the white pants on the white horse down the beach because she had a tampon. However, for me, with endo and all the rest of it, even with a tampon, there was nowhere I was wearing the white.
Or jeans, for that matter, for those few days.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Oh, well, thank you so much, Georgia, for taking so much of your time in your Hollywood afternoon to talk to us. We very much appreciate your honesty and clarity and wisdom and all the things. So thank you. Oh, Cathy, well, a lot to take in, isn't it? Georgia was very generous with her time. And as we both said, just super honest and a real incredible guest to have on, especially since she just hasn't had that opportunity to be able to tell her story really in full until now. So, I feel quite honored actually to have sat and listened to her.
It was an incredible privilege to be able to do that with her, and that she trusted us to provide her with that safe space to be able to do that. So honestly, there's too many takeaways to list every one. One that really stood out for me was how gracious she is, to have gone through all of that, to have left Australia to start over. And then for all the things to kind of hit her when she was in another country and still show grace and kindness to her brother and brothers. But I think that comes back to the complex nature of family, right?
Yeah, and totally listening to her. We talked about how Hugh and Josh are quite comfortable on their podcast, The Imperfects, talking about how imperfect they are and all their feelings and emotions. And that is an incredible thing all in of itself. And it's doing great work, especially I think in the space where men are being more emotionally vulnerable. I think it's a great podcast in that way. But there's a difference, isn't there? Like we said, talking to an audience on a microphone, staring at your computer, or in a crowd, even where people don't know you, is very different to having difficult conversations with someone you've grown up with. Families are complex, families are tricky. There are many people that would be listening and relating to just not knowing how to have those conversations, I think, with people in their family, or how Hugh obviously took on George's story and
Pain.
pain, and he felt he was doing the right thing at that time, and they never really resolved it until so many years really later. It's just sort of understandable, even though they've had a lot of ground to cover, they've had to have some very difficult conversations since. And I think it's really great that they are now on talking terms, because a lot of families wouldn't, there are a lot of
Yeah.
families that would not have been the case. And it shows how caring and how much they do love each other,
Yeah.
ultimately, that they managed to resolve it, because that is some big issues, big topics.
Georgia talks about a lot of happy memories as well,
Yeah.
and a very loving family. And
Mhm.
that's probably how they were able to get through it,
Yep.
because if those happy moments weren't there as well, and that
Mm.
love, if everything isn't grounded in love,
Mm.
then potentially you don't get through it, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think that, you think about Hugh and his fame for the Resilience Project. Well, Georgia was
Mhm.
the inspiration in part for that good work that he does. But her resilience stands out to me. She has been so resilient in the face of
Mhm.
so much trauma and difficulty in her life. And I guess that's why I wanted to reach out to her. After watching that Australian Story episode, I just felt like it was all about Hugh and the rest of the family, and not about Georgia, even though they were obviously trying to go there with it, and getting her involved, and listening to her talk about how she wasn't really happy with that edit, and how they spent all those hours talking to her and then essentially let Hugh tell her story. And I thought that was such a missed opportunity. And as a viewer, I really felt that then. And I think it's so cathartic, even just for me as a viewer, to go back and go, no, Georgia, please explain how that must have felt for you, because I felt kind of cranky watching it unfold. So it was great to have that opportunity to listen to her tell it in so much more detail from her perspective, and go, yeah, wow, how did that make you feel? It was just
Yeah.
a really great interview in that sense. And as you say, she's so gracious, so honest, and
And so accomplished, right?
yes, so
Like
accomplished.
Australian audiences, and our Australian audiences
Mm,
may not really have realized just how accomplished she is. Like, yes, Hugh and Josh, huge, big, doing big stuff and amazing
mm,
stuff and great stuff in Australia. But she went off by herself
mm,
as like a relatively young girl,
mm,
and she's done some incredible stuff,
yeah.
all the charities. She's working in the US. She's done voiceover work. She's done
Mm.
some big stuff. Star Wars, hello. And one of her close friends is Aunt Beru. I mean, any of the Star Wars listeners would understand how big a deal that is. I just think, yeah, you
Yeah.
can't underestimate what she's done with her life. And she did that like all on her own. She just
Yeah.
went and just did it. So
Yeah.
I think she's pretty amazing.
Yeah, she's an impressive woman. I can't imagine what it must take to just start one charity, and she started, many, and helped
Mhm.
so many kids and adults with all sorts of
Yeah.
different issues. And I think that, yeah, that has been underplayed, as her story is so connected to Hugh and Josh's story, that she's never really, had the opportunity to say, well, hang on a minute. Like when she said about, and she was on the plane, and that passenger next to her
Mm.
said, oh, you're the sister. Like, oh, pity, and how hard
Mm.
that is to carry that around, when actually she's not some like footnote or some sort of side
Appendix in
character.
their story.
No, she's the buddy. She's got main character energy. She's doing her own thing,
Oh,
and yeah, as you say, been living in the US. It's so hard to be by, living in another country,
as
let
you know.
alone, as I know, living in another country alone, and yeah, doing all these great things, and making connections and making kids happy. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
She is an impressive woman, aside from her connection to the Resilience
absolutely.
Project. And yeah, she's very resilient in and of herself. And yeah, it was a real privilege to talk to her.
Yeah, and we really, really hope that you have enjoyed our chat over 2 parts with Georgia as much as we've enjoyed and had the privilege of getting to know Georgia and bringing it to you. Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast.
We love the Australian-made, all-natural skincare brand Alivio Wellness, and we know you will too.
Use code THECHANGE at the checkout to receive 20% off your next order. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.